instructor, and today I will be teaching you a very fun lesson. It is a seascape and floral combo. It's called Beach Flower, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with this one. Very beginner lesson. You can do it with the kids, you can have the whole family join you, and it doesn't take a lot of time, so I think you'll really enjoy it. Following this, you will see a segment that has a list of supplies, so check that out, and I'll meet you back here in just a second. See you soon. Okay, so let's start painting. We have my 8x10 canvas here, and got my paints on my palette, and I'm going to wet my brush first. This is the filbert brush. I'm going to go ahead and wet it so that it doesn't soak up all the paint. And the first color that we're going to mix is this sand color, and it's going to be a little bit of white mixed with a little bit of this, which is raw umber. It's like a dark chocolate brown, and you see it turns kind of a grayish sort of taupe. Alright, and what we're going to do is start at the bottom of the canvas and do a little bit of a wash, which means we're just going to add some water to it so that it spreads nice and easily across the canvas. Really quick horizontal strokes back and forth. It's starting to resist, so I'm going to grab a little bit more water, just pulling it across. And I'm going to do this all the way up to about here, about a third of the way from the top. I'm using the wide edge of my brush. I need to mix a little bit more paint here. Get this on nice and evenly. To mix up a little bit of that same kind of gray color, that taupe, and a little of this ultramarine blue, and that's going to be just a band that goes right across the top here. This is kind of where the ocean is meeting the sand. Smooth, a little water. Okay, and then towards the top, we're going to want it to get a little bit darker. So I'm going to add just a touch more of the ultramarine blue and a touch more of the raw umber. Really get in there. Make sure we don't have any of the canvas showing through those little pits. White. Blend that down into there. Okay, that's good. And we want to make sure that we get the sides and the top too. Okay, so now we've completed our underpainting, which is our base coat for the sand, the beach, and the ocean. And now what we're going to do is go in and put a little bit more detail in the sea here. And I'm going to use my round brush for that. Get it a little bit wet. I want to do some darker shades. It's just going to mix a little bit of the ultramarine blue and some of the raw umber. Get a nice dark blue. And I'm going to put a few kind of wavy shadows in here, so that you can tell there's some movement going on. Now the closer this comes towards the shore, the longer these waves are going to be. So get a little bit shorter in the distance, a little bit longer and more dramatic towards the front. And we'll add some highlights to this too to make it look like that foamy sea foam that comes up to shore. A little bit more back there. more blue in there too. Wet it down just so that it's a little bit transparent. You kind of see through it a little. Make sure to hit the sides of the canvas as well. Go over here. Just a couple little streaks that match up with these. Wet this down. Go into just add a little bit more blue. Really punch up the blue that's in there. And I'm actually using the side of my brush to help blend a little bit right on the canvas. Alright, and then with my filbert, I'm going to take a little bit more, bring some of that color right down. It's a little bit wet. Just got to wipe off some of that water. Few more streaks going on in here so that it's not so flat. You see some movement there. Alright, and then we'll work on adding some more texture and dimension with the foam and the highlights, but this is just giving us a little bit more of a layer to go off of. While we wait for this to finish, we're going to move on to the flower. Okay, now that we've got some more detail up here in the waves, we're going to let that dry a little bit. We're going to go down here to this lovely flower, and I have it sitting up here so you can kind of see the shape. We're going to take our pencil and we are just going to do a nice simple outline of these. You can see 6 petals. And we will start. It's going to take up, let's say, the top of it will be about 1/3 of the way up the canvas. And it will, the right side will start about in the halfway point and leave maybe 3/4 of an inch from the left-hand side. So we'll just start by doing this petal here. And there's one. And this is just a very basic shape. You don't have to get all the little edges and ripples in it. We just kind of want to have a guide of where these guys are going. So there's this one here. Got another one that's going to come up and curve down this way. See, they're all going to be kind of meeting back in the center where this stamen is. And this guy, we're going to kind of point over to the side. Bring him back in. And we're going to just dip down a little bit for this one that's in the front here. Almost looks like a hand, sort of. All right, and then this one, you can see it kind of goes up like this. And the angle that we're seeing it at, you don't see the inside of it. That kind of gets tucked back in here. So there's our outline for our flower. Of course, we've got a shadow. We'll do that later. Now we need to get the base coat for the flower. And I'm going to use my round brush, and the base coat is going to be this lovely yellow. It's your Cad Yellow Medium. And just to make it a little bit stronger, solid color, I'm going to add a touch of this yellow ochre to it. So it's going to be a nice kind of mustard, dark mustard color. First, I'm just going to kind of trace around the edges, and I'm just pulling the brush towards the center. I'm letting the brush strokes move in the same direction that the petals are. So starting at the ends of the petals and then just working them back towards the center where they all meet in that middle area. A little bit more. Do this to each one of these petals, and then we're going to let this dry while we go back up to the C and enhance that a little bit. And that's one good way to make sure that you can finish your painting quickly is to move around the canvas. When you're waiting for one thing to dry, you move to another area and go back and forth just literally sitting there watching paint dry. Okay, so now I'm just adding some CAD yellow medium, which is this yellow. I'm just doing the tips of these flowers, these petals rather, just to lighten those up. And then I'm going to take a little bit of white and lighten that up even further, and just make sure you're following the direction of the petals. See how this one kind of curves in, and that'll also help to determine where one starts and the other one picks up. Okay, so you've got the highlights in there. I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to pick up this burnt sienna, which is this kind of rusty brown color. And here is the center of, it's like a half moon, center of my flower there. I'm going to have some of these little creases in the petals. Just put a few on each one. Really wouldn't see too much on this guy here. Okay, so there's that. And then we've got the stamen. In the middle I'm going to mix this CAD red medium with my CAD yellow medium, get some nice bright orange. And I'm going to do one nice long stem and just a few little dots, and it tapers up to the top. And that is the flower. Now last, what we need to do for the flower is get a shadow. So I'm going to use the raw umber and the ultramarine blue, equal parts of each. It's going to be pretty dark. I'm just going to put a small shadow under this bottom one here and let it have a few little ripples, just like it would on the edges of the flower. And then this next one, we're going to curve it out. Just have it angle right back towards this edge. And we'll do another little one here. Get some more paint on my brush. And got one that's going to kind of come out a little bit further. That's the shadow from this one. Have another little edge of it come out there too. And that pretty much takes care of our shadow, and we're just about done. Need to go up and finish the highlights and the waves. And what I'm going to do with that is just take pure white, and you can see these little dots, that's the reflections from the sun, and I'm going to just scatter those around here and there. Make sure that I get them kind of covering where all of these white foamy areas are, but these are going to be the brightest. Looks like little sparkles in the ocean. And you want to group some together and then spread some out so they're not all in one place. Okay. Make sure we get some here. And then the last thing we need to do is put a little shadow right underneath here. And I'm just going to take my raw umber and wet that down just a little bit with a touch of white. And just lightly, oh, that's a little too much paint, just lightly take my brush and kind of outline underneath where this is coming up onto the shore. Make sure to get the sides. And there you have it. You are done. Okay, so you're done. You did it. I hope you had a lot of fun with that. I thought it was a great time, and you should be really proud. This was just one of many, many lessons that I plan to roll out here in the next few weeks to come. And please feel free, if you have any questions, feel free to email me at kcjoley@yahoo.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I should be coming out with a series of these hopefully every few days or so. but let me know if you have any suggestions or comments. And thank you again for joining me. Had a great time. And until next time, happy painting. Bye.